Hey everyone, I'm OG Cap. I have a very special video for you. The movie that I'm going to talk about has three characters that have to work together. If you haven't guessed the movie, it's the MCU's The Marvels, set to release on November 10th. So, I thought the best way to talk about this movie is to bring in a special guest character to join me for this video. Before I bring in this guest, I want to thank you for watching this video. Join my superhero team and hit the subscribe button. If you like what you're seeing, hit the like button. Ring the bell to get notified of future videos. Add a comment if you like what you're seeing and the addition of my guest. So, without further ado, it's time to introduce my guest. He's a creator with over 540,000 subscribers on YouTube. He is also on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. He is a legend in creating Disney theories that make you go, His shorts are entertaining and just what you need when you have a bad day. Since our topic of this video is superheroes, who better to bring in than the hero to save the day? Before we get into talking about the Marvels, I thought we'd do a little bit different and allow you to talk about how you became a creator.
Oh man, that's gonna be a long story, bro. We're gonna be here all day. I don't know, man. I've been trying to be a creator since I was like 17, right? So I've been obsessed with like YouTube world and how YouTube works, and used to watch PewDiePie growing up, pretty much like every other YouTuber probably back then, and was like super inspired, and like his way of connecting and stuff. So I was like, I want to do that, I want to be a creator. I want to do something fun. And so I started, I was interested in gaming, right? And of course, like with gaming, it's the first thing you think of is Twitch, right? Everyone's just like, let's do Twitch, let's stream for hours. That's the worst possible decision you can ever have. Okay, the worst thing ever. The best swap I've ever done was coming to YouTube, man. But I did Twitch for a little bit, was a Twitch partner very fast, so I had a massive success over there, but it just wasn't for me. It wasn't the right thing I wanted to do. It wasn't gonna click. And I think it's just because you're on camera forever.
True, and it's a little bit different doing live streaming compared to doing set of videos and be able to plan it a little bit better than just trying to do ad-lib type thing.
Yeah, it's very, I think the reason why is because when you're on stream, you have to stay on, right? And everyone says a creator is not always themselves. No, trust us, we put a look on. But when you're streaming, you have to keep that going for hours, right? Where in a 10-minute, 30-minute video, you can be like, yo, what's up guys? How are you guys doing? And then by the time you're done, you're like, all right, I'm done. You know what I mean? I don't have to sit there for 3 hours doing that.
Exactly.
So. But no, it's been fun. Yeah, but I always knew that I could do it, and I try to do it for the people, right? Because a lot of times, including my own family,
right?
Having people like you coming in, as well as especially kids. I get all the time, especially because I make Disney content, of people's kids watching me and being like, oh yeah, I watch him, and telling their friends, and then they're watching me. So it's just it's really interesting, and it's one of the things where as a creator you always have ups and downs, right?
Right.
You always think oh, I'm not the best, or oh, my video didn't get so many views. You get kind of mixed up in the number game, which I feel like every content creator does on every platform.
Right.
But when you hear stuff like kids watching you, or you hear even my nephew I was telling you about the other day of how he just literally was watching me one day, one of his friends seen it and was like, who's that? Who are you watching? He's like, that's my uncle. I was like, that's so cool. And so the little girl was just like, no, that's not your uncle. And then his mom had to be like, no, that's his uncle.
Well, it's got to be a good feeling for you to get that exposure and have that notoriety even when you're seen in public.
Yeah. It's a different world, I would say. And I think it's something that I didn't think I would ever get just because I worked on it for so long.
Right.
And honestly, the best thing that could have happened was short form content for me. Granted, I'm trying to get more into the long form stuff, and it's a lot harder. It's a whole different world. But it was nice that short form was there to kind of propel me there. So
I gotcha. And for me being a new creator, watching someone like you grow the way that you did, you've basically been doing these shorts for roughly about 2 years and gotten to where you are now.
Yeah.
That's excellent for somebody to do, and it's inspiring for other people.
Well, I appreciate it. I hope that's what I'm doing. I want to be that guy that inspires other people. I was inspired people, so I'm I want to be that person that will be hey, I came from this small little town. I'm doing what I'm doing. It doesn't mean that you can't do the same thing.
Right. People who are trying to do YouTube, people who are interested in doing it, can watch someone like you grow the way that you have, and they really look at it and say, hey, anything's possible.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too, is I always try to tell people because I have a creator friend that always gets down on himself, right? And one of the things he's always worried about is his next video doing well, his next video. But one of the things that you need to focus on, and we've learned this from Mr. Beast himself, is that once you do a video, that's all you can do.
Right.
You put it out into the world, you put your thumbnail on it, you do your best. If no one clicks on it, you move on to the next one. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it only takes one video, especially long form. If one long form video blows up for you, you learn to do that again.
Right.
that content will just continue to propel you forward.
Yeah.
Now, short form is a little bit different because you can have shorts pop off all the time, which I've had many. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be like a success overnight. It's a little bit different when it comes to short form stuff. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, I think it's a neat thing, and I enjoy it. It has more money coming in for me. You know, that's always a plus.
That's always a plus, no doubt. It's just, like I said, it's great that you've gotten to this point. You should feel proud of what you've done so far.
Well, I appreciate it.
You're not quite Mr. Beast yet, but
Yeah.
hey,
I mean, if I was.
something to aspire to. So it's a great start for you, because you know as well as I do the story of Mr. Beast is that he's been doing it for,
Years.
10, 15 years,
Yeah.
and finally at the level he's at now.
Exactly.
So for you to get a big jump on it, I think that's excellent.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's as long as I'm inspiring someone, you know.
Exactly. All right. So for this video, we're going to be talking about the Marvels. The MCU's next film for Phase 5. I would like to talk about the potential superhero fatigue that obviously all of us have been feeling.
I'm gonna say I think it's all we all kind of feeling that a little bit.
Yep, I gotcha. The film is a follow-up to Captain Marvel. But it also is related to WandaVision. And Miss Marvel. What do you think about the combination of these heroes?
Personally, like, I love mashups, like superhero mashups, especially like even back in the comic days. Right? Like you have Fantastic Four teaming up with Spider-Man.
Right.
I mean, who's gonna not want to read that comic? Let's be honest, right?
Yeah, and you got a great team with a great individual.
Yeah.
That together, that's got to be
Yeah,
unstoppable
and then you're
force.
you're just trying to think of like who's the villain? Like
Right.
who are they gonna face? Like what villain's strong enough that's gonna take on all 5 of these people?
Exactly.
So like I love the idea of like a superhero mashup. I think like this idea of having these heroes that are still kind of building up. We kind of feel a little bit for Captain Marvel just because we've already had a film. She's been in the Avengers. But like for the other two, we're still kind of new to them. They're still kind of open.
Right.
Especially like, and we'll get into this I feel like later, but like especially like with Miss Marvel, like I feel like she has a connection to certain people.
Right.
But not to everyone yet because of how they introduced her.
Right. And, this is a kid that, talking about Miss Marvel, is just a kid that idolizes Captain Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
And so for her to all of a sudden get these powers, it really gave her, I guess, using Captain Marvel as an inspiration, made her feel like she was a little bit more, but still really afraid to know what she can do.
Yeah, and I think the coolest thing about her character, like from the show, like because obviously like her culture I didn't connect with. I mean, I'm a white guy, so I don't connect with that. But I do, the one thing we did connect with is that she was a Marvel fan. Like
Right.
think about it. Like that's exactly what she was. That's how I connected with her. That was my way of being able to like kind of bring in like what if I was a fan of Spider-Man and then tomorrow I wake up and I'm Spider-Man.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And that's
Right.
kind of how her story was. For me, that's what made her interesting. And so I'm more excited about just seeing like just from the trailer how the shenanigans work with her.
Right.
Because I feel like obviously she's gonna be the more entertainment value, I feel like, for the film of putting her in weird situations.
Right,
and,
right.
While the other ones are just like, what the F is going on?
And it's kind of similar for Monica Rambeau too, because she just got her powers just from going into, in WandaVision, going back and forth through that force field.
Exactly.
And I think for her, she's still trying to figure out what her powers are.
Yeah, and that's gonna be interesting to see in general because I'm like, her character seems really cool.
Right.
Like for me, I'm very excited to see her. She's interesting.
Right.
I just want to see what they actually do with her. you know?
Exactly. I got you. All right. So the movie release date has been shuffled many times with Marvel Studios ever since 2019. Production got underway in 2020. The original release date was supposed to be July 22, but now obviously it's 2023. 4 years later, and now it's getting released. What do you think, Marvel and Kevin Feige, why do they keep pushing it back?
I think it's a couple of things. I think, like, first off, we had the Hollywood strikes that were recent, and they still are continuing going on.
Right.
So I feel like that might have played into it. But really, those strikes came after. Like, the first time it got pushed back, the strikes weren't even happening. They started
Right.
this year. I think a lot of it is just going to come down to, like, I think Marvel's trying to figure out how they want to place these stories. How do they want to make the most concise sense while making a continuous story?
Right.
And I think that's like one of the problems we're kind of running into. Because the reason the first 10 years or so worked is because it was like a buildup of everything, and it got to the final end game, right? But with these, we have a bunch of new heroes. We're just kind of getting thrown. So it's like, here's Miss Marvel, here's Photon, here's Captain Marvel, all these different people. And so then what you kind of have is like these jumbled characters that we really don't feel a connection to yet.
Right.
That we're trying to like, where it makes the most sense, where it's going to be story-wise most interesting.
Right.
And then obviously, I think it comes down to money, right? I think it comes down to like, when is the perfect time to release a movie?
True. I mean, there's a lot of competition out there. You know, you've got, Martin Scorsese coming up with his movie. You know
the film buffs are going to be
that's going to be an Oscar movie. We all know that.
Yep.
And it's a challenge because obviously Scorsese is one of the biggest critics of superhero genre.
Yep.
So him putting a movie out and then this following up the following month, you know that it's a Marvel movie. There's Oscars, not a word that they understand. So Scorsese is going to use that as this is art, and we have the superhero genre is
have fun.
Is a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And that's basically how he describes it.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge for Marvel, and I think that's why they kind of juggle their schedule because, you want to have that continuous story going through. I think they've gotten detached from that recently, and I think it's something they got to refocus.
I think one of the things that I wanted to bring up too was this, is that the focus, right? Like that's one of the things I was thinking in my head. I'm like, think back to like old Marvel movies, right? We had like Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Right.
We had Blade. We had like the Fantastic Four. Did they do well? Nah.
No.
But when those movies were focused on those characters, people have a deep connection with them.
Right.
Even if they sucked and like people like absolutely hated it. If you talk to anyone that's a Marvel fan, they love Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Right. They love him. I love him. We grew up with them. So like you love that character. Even those movies might be like, the third one's absolutely booty cheeks, too many villains in one movie. I don't know what they were trying to do there. But
no kidding.
But when you have something like that where people cling on to, I'm like, is it the case of like, do you take that step back from the continuous story, focus on these characters, even if the movies aren't great, right?
Right.
But build those characters up, with their villains. Like, how many Spider-Man movies we could have?
Oh,
there's so many villains that we've never even seen.
Well, and that's just it. Even with any of the main hero characters, there are so many villains for each one. We don't even get a chance to see.
No, we see maybe the big few,
right?
And then it's like when they do it again, they bring the same people,
right?
And it's like we just seen Lizard 2 times, bro. How we need
Lizard that big of a character, so why?
Why do we need him?
Exactly.
I would understand like another Green Goblin or something that's huge villains.
And it helps that you have great actors in some of those roles too, and you want them to come back.
You do, and
that's
hard to replace them.
Exactly, and that's kind of what we'll get into here in a little bit. The challenge of replacing characters that have built up that background that everybody is attached to.
Mm-hmm.
So as we get into that, we're going to talk a little bit about the cast. As you know, most of the cast is reprising their roles. Mm-hmm. Brie Larson obviously is Captain Marvel. Carol Danvers, and she's questionably the strongest Avenger.
Questionably.
Are
you sure about that?
There's a couple that can be close to her.
Just don't ask Thor.
Thor thinks he is. Hulk thinks he is. We all kind of suspect that Wanda has a little more than what she's showing.
I mean, let's be honest. No, the strongest Avenger has always been Iron Man.
We'll just keep moving from that. Just because he's your favorite. I could say it's Cap, but obviously...
I mean, technically...
Being Cap,
technically, he is the one that's supposed to have the strength,
That's right, that's right. I mean, he is, just a normal guy that's extremely strong and...
It's kind of a cheat that Hulk is also big,
Yeah, exactly.
Cap can't help that.
There's been rumors surrounding working with Brie Larson in the MCU. You followed Marvel for years. What have you heard?
So I think a lot of it is just like he said, she said. You hear that maybe the actor said this, maybe the director said this. It's a lot of news networks that are saying all this stuff, but really you never hear from like the actual people,
right?
Besides Samuel L. Jackson,
right? We all know Samuel L. Jackson's one of her biggest fans. If he can get her in a movie, he'll get her in.
Yeah.
He likes having her in. He's done several movies with her already. So
exactly, and again, it could be just like him defending her. You never know because they are friends. Could be that, but like at the end of the day, us fans, we don't know anything,
right?
But we hear a lot about fans. We were just saying like a lot of people are like, oh, Brie Larson sucks, or like Brie Larson's a horrible actress. I'm like, but where are you getting it from?
Right. And to give Brie Larson credit, she has never addressed those issues.
Yeah.
You've never heard anything where she says, I don't know where they're getting this. She just is what it is. Yeah. And I'm not going to argue with it.
If anything, she gets like depressed, man. Yeah. She almost quit acting because of it.
Right.
She almost didn't want to do Captain Marvel. She almost didn't want to come back as Captain Marvel.
Right.
She didn't want to be in Fast X, all this stuff, because she was afraid that fans would be like, "Oh, Brie Larson ruined the franchise."
Right,
And I'm like, "What'd she do?"
and honestly, I've watched a little bit of stuff with her. She was in 21 Jump Street before, you know, the movie version with can't even think of the actors' names now.
Channing Tatum
Channing Tatum.
and I can't think of the other guy.
I can't either. What the heck is his name?
I almost said Joseph Phoenix, but that's
No,
not
no,
it.
no, no. I can picture the guy.
Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill. There we go. So, I mean, I don't think people have given her a fair shake, and I give her credit for still pushing through it all.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think she made a film, like she directed a film
Right.
recently. Apparently it was decent, like good, according to critics and stuff. So I don't.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm like, if I was an actor and people were saying I was sucking and everything, I'd be like, well, you're still coming to watch my movies.
Well, and,
You know what I mean? Like, you're still showing up in the movie theater.
exactly. And something I just thought of is she's also an Oscar winner.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, obviously, she's good at what she does. How many Marvel actors have won an Oscar?
Very few. Very few.
I mean, you got Downey Jr., who did for Chaplin.
but that's because he was known a little bit before.
Yeah, exactly. But
Everyone else was in like comedies or like freaking Chris Evans in another teen
another
movie.
some B movies that he probably, yeah, he was glad he did them, but now he's like, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I want to see Captain America with like whipped cream
Whipped
on his
cream.
nipples.
exactly. So I think you're right. I think that it's just a he said, she said type of thing with her, and I commend her for being able to take it and keep moving on.
Yeah.
The next character I want to talk about is Iman Vellani, who's Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. She's a young mutant, yes, as in the X-Men type mutants. We know that's coming. From Jersey City, who idolizes, like you said, Carol Danvers. She has the power to harness cosmic energy and forge structures from light. I thought she did a great job in this character. A young girl, a lot of
Pretty much fresh act.
yeah, I was gonna say, not a lot of experience, and she actually made that series fun to watch because of her personality.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, she's, in my opinion, the one that carried the series.
She was.
Because without her, the series would have been poo-poo.
So, what do you think of her? What do you think of how she portrays it? Do you think that she does a good job with this character? What do you think is missing?
Well, like, the first thing that sticks out to me is, like, as a Marvel fan, which I'm sure most of you other Marvel fans were probably like, what the heck are they doing? Was when they made her immune. Because in the comics, she wasn't? I can't remember.
I don't remember if she was or not, but
I just know she wasn't an X-Men.
Right.
And, like, I know this was their way of kind of introducing mutants into the MCU.
Right.
Which was fine, but at the end of the day, I was just like, yeah, but you already changed her powers a little bit, you know, where she's not stretchy arms. She's
Right.
not a Mr. Fantastic clone, essentially.
Right.
But it could also grow like Ant-Man, you know? Like,
Right.
And that was the stuff that I was kind of like, man, I kind of wish we had that, because that's what we have in the comics. You know,
Right.
I want to see her actually stretch and lift a building up
Right,
or whatever, you know what I mean?
exactly, yeah.
So that was kind of disappointing, but like the way they did take it and how they connected it to like the overall MCU makes sense, and I get it, and I kind of like accepted the fact now.
Right.
Now, because of that, I'm excited for the X-Men. Because now I'm like, all right, I'm ready for my people, you know?
And I think the challenge that Marvel was having is to get the X-Men into the Disney versions. They were trying to find a connection. They tried a little bit with Wanda Maximoff and showing her when she was young and still had power before she was exposed to the
Yeah.
Infinity Stone. So I think they were trying to hint at it there to try to ease it in. And of course, we know that coming up, you know, you're going to see Wolverine shortly with Deadpool
And I'm very excited to see what's gonna happen with that, because I'm like, you know, I hope Hugh Jackman continues.
I do
hope.
too.
But at the end of the day, I'm also open to something, because I know they just recently, which is unannounced what he's playing, but they did just cast Daniel Radcliffe,
right.
which a lot of people fan casted as Wolverine for
They
years.
did. They did.
Don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but we'll see what happens.
Kind of hard to picture Harry Potter having the foul-mouthed Wolverine.
Yeah, like I've seen him in a couple movies since, right? Since Harry Potter days, and I think he plays a great villain. I don't know if you watched The Lost City, but he was
The
decent.
Lost City, he was decent. He was also a villain in
Now You See Me.
Now You See Me too.
Yeah,
he was,
exactly. And I think he's decent.
Yeah,
I think he
Michael Caine's
plays.
son. That was evil,
Yeah,
so.
I just don't see his squeaky voice being Wolverine, though. That's
No,
my issue.
no, I don't either.
Now, I did agree with like a Taron Egerton. Like I
Right.
thought like he's kind of buffy and
Right.
you know I could see it, but we'll see. I mean, he's also rumored to play Hercules in the live action Hercules, so it's like he's got more stuff that he could be
Right,
involved in.
right.
So we'll see if Hugh Jackman continues. I know he's having a tough time getting back into shape. So
Hey, when you're pushing 50, it gets tougher to
Hey!
do. Okay.
what's the guy that what's his name? The guy that plays J. Jonah Jameson.
God, what is his name?
Cause that sucker swole.
Allstate commercial guy.
Yeah.
What the heck is his name?
That sucker swole though, bro.
Oh, he is.
And he's older.
You're right.
So I mean,
I think Hugh Jackman just wants to get really big for. If this is his swan song of Wolverine, I think that's what he's trying to do.
and honestly,
I don't honestly think it is. I think there's a little bit more. I'm sure.
We hope.
I'm sure Feige has a couple more movies planned for him.
we hope, bro. I hope it's good.
and we're getting a lot off track of
Yeah.
this, but Deadpool is going to be a phenomenal movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just because it's going to be the death of Fox.
Yeah, and it's gonna be so great. And I'm sure we'll talk about this going forward.
yeah,
But man,
yeah.
it's gonna be fun.
Hey,
But-
maybe the next time we get
yeah,
together.
yeah. There we go.
Deadpool,
I'm down.
So yeah,
That's Ryan Reynolds, Daddy.
no doubt. All right, and we're finally to the last character, Tiana Paris as Monica Rambeau. She's a sword agent with the ability to absorb energy.
Which is interesting.
She's also the daughter of Maria Rambeau, who is a close friend and another pilot from Carol Danvers. She received her powers during the events of WandaVision. As if you've watched WandaVision, you've seen what it took for that to happen. She's got under several different names in Marvel Comics. She was Captain Marvel at one time. They've also used the name of Spectrum, but for the MCU, she's going to go by Photon. From what you've seen, what do you think of this character?
I think she's cool. I would, honestly, I'm like, I want to see what happens. They got the introduction. She seems like she'd be like even more BA, I feel like, than Captain Marvel is. Because Captain Marvel's got that more of like, I'm kind of here learning my stuff still. Whereas she seems like she's been a sergeant. I know what I'm doing, and now she's learning her powers.
Right.
But it's going to be interesting to see how she takes the powers with the leadership she has, right?
Right.
So I'm super excited to see how she gets along with everyone, how she's going to connect to everything. This will be the first time we actually get to see her powers in full action too,
That's true.
which is going to be interesting. So I really just want to see what they do with her.
And from the clips, and we're going to show some of the clips throughout this, you can see where she seems to be leading, even though Captain Marvel has more seniority and superhero genre.
Yeah.
But she seems to be taking the lead and saying, I'm learning about everybody's powers since we're now interconnected.
Yeah. Captain Marvel feels like, to me, she feels like more of the, how do I put this? Like a distracted kid is the best way to put it. Like where she's like kind of there, she's just doing her thing, but she also wants to kind of be alone.
Right.
Like in the universe, doing it, saving the world, other universes,
Right.
right? But now that she's kind of brought into this, so she's just like, what do we do?
Yeah, and I think that with the transference of power and trading places and all that, it's thrown her for a loop where she's always been in control.
Exactly.
So if you've seen an Endgame where they needed her, she was there.
She could have destroyed that whole thing by herself, to be honest. But if she didn't get distracted and get hit or whatever when she
Yeah.
was fighting Thanos would have died right there.
Oh, yeah. And I think that showed that her power is a little bit better than the Thor's, and obviously Hulk, forget it. I mean, we can get into Hulk later, but Hulk is one of those characters that I think they're not giving it the potential that it should have had.
Oh yeah, I could go on a whole soap opera.
Oh yeah, I know.
I do not.
I
like
think there's more to him than what they give him credit for.
Yeah.
And I think that just so many things that are pulling her away from what she has control of, that's where Monica Rambeau is going to kind of control her and say, all right, we have to figure out how to make this work.
Yeah, and like I said, the leadership's going to come in. She's going to be able to like kind of put everyone on the right track. They're going to have to fight this villain, obviously, which we're going to talk about later.
Right.
And like all that kind of stuff. And like, I just feel like she's going to be the one that leads everything, which hopefully will give us more feelings towards the character.
Right.
Maybe she'll have a backstory of her mom dying or whatever, and just, things like that. She already connects
The
to Captain
emotional
Marvel.
side of it, yeah.
I want something there. And I
Right.
don't know how it's going to be, if it's going to be like, oh, you abandoned us because she was gone years and
Yeah.
all that. I hope there's something, because there's got to be something
There
we
should be. I
can
mean-
cling on to.
I mean, you've seen a little bit in WandaVision about how her mom, Maria Rambeau, ends up dying of cancer. So you have a little bit of that backstory, kind of inspired her to keep moving on in her mom's footsteps. So you see that with her. So, I mean, I think the buildup of her is going to be key to continuing Marvel, and I think she's going to have bigger roles as it comes up.
yeah.
And, of course, the last one I want to really bring up is Samuel Jackson.
Daddy!
It's Nick Fury. Now, you watched Secret Invasion. I've watched Secret Invasion. Not the best I've ever seen of him, but
Not the worst.
not the
To be
worst.
honest. I thought he was worse,
Literally-
honestly, in Captain Marvel. I hated the
because
backstory.
he was having to play a younger.
Yeah, he
version of Nick
wasn't the
Fury.
captain and stuff.
No,
so it's just like,
But it gave you a little backstory of him and why he wears the eye patch and that, and we'll talk about the character that caused the eye patch. Samuel Jackson is obviously a great actor, and I think that his portrayal of Nick Fury was spot on. In fact, Marvel thought it was so spot on that they changed the character in comics to match
him. Yeah.
So that's an incredible honor for anybody. But I think that he is starting to show his age, and you see kind of
gray beard, bro.
you kind of see that in Secret Invasion because he's having a little hard time getting around. He played it off as, hey, I let you do stuff to me, but you really saw in the end when you thought it was him and he was strong and it really wasn't him, and that kind of gave you an idea that okay, Nick's there, but is he the guy he was before?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is like obviously from, if you guys watched it, like he's been through a lot.
Yeah,
he's been up and down as the captain and all that. The one thing I did like about Secret Invasion and like the whole thing was like, to me it was one of the best acted series because I mean you had so many good actors in it, you know what I mean, so like it was really good in that aspect,
right? And
it was kind of cool to see Nick Fury by himself. Granted, there was a couple of plot holes where I was like, why wouldn't you call the Avengers?
Exactly. I mean, I remember that one part you're talking about. It's like, okay, you have contact with the most powerful people on
You got Captain Marvel's your best friend.
and you're going to say, this is something I have to handle? You're
an
talking about a
invasion.
super powered scroll that could literally beat anybody that's there and really challenge the superheroes that are involved.
But I think
and you're Nick Fury, you're going to, I got this.
Yeah. I think it was like a good way of showing that he's just human, though.
Right.
Because even though he wanted to do what he did, if he didn't have, what was her name? Talos's daughter.
Yeah, Emilia Clarke's character. God, what is
Big
her
Marvel
name?
fan. Whatever her name is.
Starts with a G. That's what I remember.
Gaia?
Gaia.
Gaia. If they didn't have Gaia, he would have lost.
He would have lost.
So let's be honest. It does show, and I think he's learning that too. So maybe like in this movie, right? Because you see he's clean shaven again.
Right.
He's got his. So maybe he's reborn, and maybe he has a different way of being Nick Fury.
Yeah, and realizing that you need to rely on those
your people.
folks. Yeah, they're the ones that are going to take care of you.
Yep, because you're about to kick the bucket. We'll see how long we have Nick Fury. So.
That's true. So other cast members that aren't main ones, we've got Zawe Ashton, who's been cast as a villain Darben.
Hey.
McCree with a Grudge Against Carol. That's kind of her thing. She's the first female villain in the MCU.
Which is
the
dope.
main villain.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
There's been, you've had some
Side
other
characters.
side character villains, but she's the main villain. And she's engaged to MCU veteran Tom Hiddleston. In fact, they just had a baby.
Hey, that's cool. Let's go.
What do you think of the casting of her?
I think it's pretty cool. Like I seen the trailer. Again, I don't know her outside of this, so I don't know if she's been in anything else or whatever. But I did know that she was engaged to Tom. So I was like, well, it's pretty interesting that Tom was able to convince her to be like, hey, just be in the Marvel a little bit.
Be Marvel, have fun. You could be a bad guy like me,
2 movies, who cares? Who knows? They might make you full on.
Hold on, yeah, you may do so well that they kill you off and say, not really.
Yeah. So,
That's the luxury of the MCU. You're not really dead until you're really dead.
exactly. And I think that because of like Tom being in the MCU for a while, who knows? I'm sure they've talked for years about how the process works and all that. So I feel like it's going to be good for her because like she already knows. Her husband's been in it for
Yeah, he gave her a lot of information. Okay, this is what I need to worry about, and this is what I need to do.
And it helps that he played a villain. Yeah, so he got to play a villain, so it wasn't like he played a hero, so it's not like he was just, I don't know what the fuck you're supposed to do. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it'd be tough if he was a hero, because then he could give her, sorry, good luck.
Yeah, like now, sure. I mean, he's got more of that anti-hero going on, but originally, I mean, he can tell her all the time, like, bro, the first movie I was a villain, so I got you.
That's right.
So.
Okay, so one of the interesting cast members is Park Seo-joon, who's got an undisclosed role.
Yeah.
They haven't really said what he is. There's been a lot of suggestions from fans what they think it is. And since he is a Asian American, we all kind of know, if you're a Marvel fan, you have an idea what that Asian character could
There's only
be.
a few famous Asian characters.
That's true, and we've already seen one of them. But there's one that they're thinking this guy could be, and it's Amadeus Cho. All right, so do you think this is possible?
Marvel movies, man. I don't know. Like, I hope so, right? But with Marvel movies comes a lot of speculation, right? There's always like fans that want to see something, or they see like a little tiny detail in the background. They're like, but I think that's because of the way the culture has worked, right? Like, we know heroes always are teaming up with other heroes. We had like No Way Home, and ever since then, people are just like cameo. Because
I mean, you look at Matt getting Tobey Maguire back and getting Andrew Garfield along with Tom Holland, and the villains too. So I mean, people relate to all those characters.
It's been built up over years, you know what I mean? And even though like we were saying, the movies might have been there's a way they built up those characters, that the classic hero story of like,
Right.
all right, they get their powers, they learn their powers, they get their first introduction to a villain. Now they're trying to save their loved ones while fighting this.
Right.
There's a lot of build up that makes like us as fans connect to them.
And also the villains too. You connect to those, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
helps that the actors that have portrayed them over the
pristine.
years have been great. You can't question that part of it.
But going back to Cho, like, would I hate having him in there? Heck no, bro. I mean, that's another added character, right? Like,
Right.
that's someone I've been waiting for. I've literally been waiting for this one because he's one of the smartest people in Marvel,
Right.
Which I'm super excited to see, especially with the introduction of Mr. Fantastic coming in too.
Right.
Those are some big brains, man.
Yeah,
And
no
so
doubt.
I'm super excited, especially if they start introducing Doctor Doom and all this.
Right.
It's getting to that Marvel feel that I love. Like, I love the science type of characters, you
Right.
know?
I got you.
But I will say, in my mind, if that happens, going with a younger actor for a Hulk character, we already got introduced to Bruce Banner's son,
Scar.
something like that, with his dorky haircut.
Yeah. I don't know where that came from.
It's not even in the comics, bro.
I mean, we never brought up She-Hulk, but we'll leave it at that. Because that's a whole different story.
It's a whole another can of worms.
Yeah, his son had a bad day with a razor.
Let's just say I don't know where they got it because this man had long hair in the comics, so I don't know. He looked barbaric in the
They did.
comics, man. They made him look like a dork in there.
You're right.
But no, because of that, I'm wondering if this is this going to be the end of Mark Ruffalo's Hulk?
I kind of disagree with that. I think there's plenty more they can do with Bruce Banner's Hulk. However, it looks like we're getting another version of Hulk in Captain America 4 movie.
Mm-hmm.
Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is obviously, everybody knows this is coming, but he's going to be the Red Hulk.
80-year-old Harrison
80-year-old
Ford.
Harrison Ford. Lose Thaddeus from somebody else, a different actor, and get an older actor to play the
Older
character. That's
actor.
right,
One
exactly.
movie deal, guarantee.
But if you add in Amadeus Cho and She-Hulk, you have the potential to make a complete Hulk standalone movie.
Yeah, I mean, people have been hinting and wanting a Planet Hulk movie for so long. It'd be neat to finally get one before Mark Ruffalo's Hulk disappears,
That's
you know?
true. Well, even Mark Ruffalo said he'd love to continue playing the character.
We've heard that how many times now?
That's true.
And then, like, a couple of years later...
Like, okay. I think really the potential that happening is a lot more improved. Recently, Marvel got the distribution rights back to Hulk from Universal.
Which is neat because
And
how
that was-
long... It's been
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
15 years they've had it. So June of this year, they got the rights back to it. So I think if I'm Kevin Feige, and again, this is my theory, take advantage of it. Hulk is a beloved character. Why not use it? You're introducing the other versions of Hulk in here. Why not have a standalone movie with Hulk in these different versions?
Yeah, I mean, even just as a standalone movie where they do something right with Hulk. Let's just put it this way. We've had Hulk in the MCU, but he's always been with people.
Right.
The one Hulk we got was Edward Norton's.
Right.
It was great, but he didn't last. But for Mark Ruffalo, we haven't got a Mark Ruffalo movie.
Right. And I don't
You know
think
what I mean?
they've given Hulk the right
Story arc?
story.
Yeah.
So if you go back to the original Hulk, besides Incredible Hulk, which was the Edward Norton version, if you go back to the first Hulk,
The Eric Bana one?
the Eric Bana one, I like the way they built that character up. As the Hulk gets mad, he gets stronger. And he doesn't have a limit of how big he gets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is Hulk. Hulk's version of when he fought Thanos wouldn't have been that easy to beat.
You don't think Lou Ferrigno is the...
Okay, Lou Ferrigno, love the guy, but
Come on, man. He's the best Hulk. Easily.
you know, a 6'4" Hulk does not challenge an 8-foot Hulk. Okay. Honestly, I think that they should have built Hulk to be a lot stronger than what they've done.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Avengers, he was the Hulk. And then in Infinity War and more Infinity War than anything, again, going back to Tom Hiddleston's Loki, we have a Hulk. Hulk got 3 good licks in it, and that was the end. I have never seen a Hulk get beat so easily.
I think, honestly, and people talk about that scene all the time, and even in the Endgame where he was kind of non-existent,
Right.
too. I think the idea behind that is because maybe Marvel knows, like, you know, they created Hulk. They know
Right.
Hulk's unbeatable. So I feel like this was their way of being like, Hulk was there. Thanos wouldn't have done what he did.
Right.
He would be beat in 2 seconds. We
Right.
would have seen that scene be the end of the movie.
Right.
I think this was their way of, like, taking Hulk out of the equation. So then it made the other heroes have to stand up and fight.
That makes sense because if you look at how the storyline went from that to Endgame, Hulk didn't want to come back.
Yeah, he was first off mad, but felt underappreciated, which I thought was neat because it felt like a doctor, like a Mr. Hyde situation.
yeah.
You know, like he's his own person, he has his own feelings.
Right.
I like that. I really enjoyed that. So.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure of the Professor Hulk from She-Hulk. That's more of a scaled down version of Hulk.
Yeah, it almost takes away the Hulk factor.
It does. I mean, honestly, I like the fact of, like I said, from the original Hulk, if you hurt the Hulk, if you did anything that caused him pain, it made him strong. He's unbeatable. The whole point of it is that he is unbeatable.
Yeah.
For granted, in Ragnarok, he was unbeatable until Thor, because Thor's obviously a god. So
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's a little different than a Thanos who just has a couple Infinity Stones. And I think that has a lot more story in him if they allow it to happen.
I don't know. I hope so. Again, I'm very iffy on a lot of the legacy characters nowadays because it seems like we have them for a little bit, then the actors start kind of move on to the other stuff.
Right.
Mark Ruffalo's not someone I've seen do anything else right now, so I'm
No.
like, he's kind of okay. Unlike, like Elizabeth Olsen's doing a lot of like other stuff.
Right.
Those kind of characters, it makes you like Benedict Cumberbatch. He's in a bunch of different things all of a sudden. It makes you feel like, are we going to lose him eventually?
Right.
But like when you have people like Mark Ruffalo that doesn't do anything.
Well, and if
if
you think about his career prior to Marvel,
yeah, I mean,
he did a lot of B movies,
comedies, romantic comedies.
Exactly, rom-coms, those type of things. That's not what you look for in an action. But coming into Marvel, he actually did very well.
Yeah, I think he did really well.
He played the Bruce Banner character awesome, and we all know that Hulk is actually him just CGI'd up.
Yeah, at the beginning of everything when that happened, everyone was iffy because they wanted Edward Norton.
Right.
They were used to him. So when he got replaced, everyone was like, Mark Ruffalo?
I know.
Mark Ruffalo?
It was not quite what we looked at.
What?
But that was kind of the magic that they had back then. The last character I'm going to bring up is, of course, can't leave out Goose the Flurkin.
Goose.
That
See the
character-
trailer, like where he's flying on her shoulder?
Yeah.
That's gonna be fun. I like that.
I like Goose. Goose is one of those, I'm not a big animal character type
Really?
person.
What?
But the way that Goose is, mild-mannered little cat, but he has his own secret identity. And so it kind of surprised me. We all know what happened with Nick Fury and Goose. And it was one of those things that Goose was a great character add in just for a unique look.
Yeah, like something different. Something, honestly, it was really cool because it reminded me, it's like a connection to Guardians, right?
Right.
So I thought that was really neat.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it was just, I don't know, it's really cool to just think about it. But like, I remember the first time, I think it was Rocket that used to say like, Flarkin or whatever it was called, he used to say. I was like, yeah, it was neat to have something actually come of light like
Right.
that. So.
And it did. And
And he's a cool character.
He
Like,
is.
I mean,
I mean, think about it. Nick Fury trusts him so much, he gave him the Tesseract
yeah.
and let him swallow it.
Take the Tesseract, leave the lunchbox.
Me?
Yes.
I'm not touching that thing.
You want me to get you an oven mitt?
That's what I'm saying. So I'm like, hey, we all need a Goose on our team.
We do. That's right. Exactly. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the movie. The movie is about Carol Danvers reclaiming her identity from the Kree and taking revenge on the Supreme Intelligence. But the unintended consequences are Carol shouldering the burden of a destabilized universe. When her duties send her to an anomalous wormhole linked to a Kree revolutionary, her powers become entangled with Kamala and Monica. Together, this unlikely trio must team up and learn to work together to save the universe. In other words, every time each one of them uses their powers, they switch places with one of the other ones. When they switch places, poor little Kamala seems to get in the worst situations. But from what we've seen so far in the trailers, it has some hilarious results. What do you think, Hero?
Oh man, I think the main thing that's cool about this is I like how they're marketed. It almost feels, it's not like Thor: Love and Thunder. It's not like Ant-Man. They're not marketing it to be this like crazy story. They're not marketing it to be this serious story.
Right.
They're marketing it to be a funny, crazy story. And I think that's what's good when it comes to marketing. Because earlier this year we had Cocaine Bear.
Right.
The weirdest crap I've ever seen. But it was good because of how they marketed it.
Right. And I think you say the same thing for Barbie.
Barbie too.
Barbie,
Yeah.
one of the highest grossing movies of this past summer.
They knew it was gonna be silly.
They knew it was going to be so they marketed it as
Yeah.
a goofy, silly movie.
And it had a serious undertone, but like
Right.
at the end of the day, on the outside, people if they watched it, they would know like it's a silly movie.
Right.
You're not gonna go watch Ryan Gosling be that silly ever again.
Right.
That's the one rule you'll ever see ever in his entire life.
I agree.
But like that's the way I'm kind of rolling with this. Is that's what makes me kind of excited for it.
Okay.
It's not like a Thor: Love and Thunder where I was very excited because I thought it was gonna be like the comeback. He was, he just
Similar to
you know,
Ragnarok.
yeah.
Ragnarok was the best of the Thor movies.
Yeah, and it balanced. It was
Yeah.
a balance. Thor: Love and Thunder should have been a balance because it was a way of Thor coming back.
Right.
Right. It was him getting back into shape, him getting back to his godlike self.
Right. You didn't like Fat Thor?
I mean, hey, Fat Thor connects to me more than the others. I mean, let's be honest. But yeah, like it makes me excited.
The plot will reveal the connection between the three heroes and bring them together to figure out the mystery. It will bring together these young superheroes as they defeat a new villain. The story is set up by an item that was introduced in Miss Marvel on Disney Plus, and that's the bangle that gave her powers.
Okay.
The new villain is going to have a second version of that bangle.
Oh, it's the one she's missing.
Yeah, the one she's missing.
Ah.
And then I also found that you'll see a little bit of it in the clips, the nice little hammer that she has.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
You've
that's
seen
right.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
So you know where that came from, right?
No,
That's a
no.
connection to back to the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ah.
So if you go back, remember Ronan the Accuser?
Yeah, yeah.
Remember his weapon?
Is that his weapon?
That is his weapon. It's called a Cosmorod.
So they just need to get the Guardians and they'll be
Yeah,
fine.
there you go. But it's the most powerful weapon. And if you remember, the only thing that was more powerful was the Power Stone,
Which they don't have anymore.
which they don't have anymore.
Oh.
So the combination of Ronan's hammer and the bangle gives this new villain a lot more power than we imagined.
So that makes me wonder if all three of their powers equal the Power Stone.
It's possible.
Maybe that's why we need all three of them. Okay.
I think that's why, because
You would think Captain Marvel could easily.
you
defeat her.
would think, but I think that what you're seeing is they all have three different sets of powers of this same
Same
type
power.
of power.
Yeah.
And you need the combination of the three to have that complete strength.
So that honestly opens the question of like, is Captain Marvel the strongest then? Because if she had all the powers, maybe.
And I think
You know?
she had a lot of the powers, but you got to remember, her powers came from the Tesseract.
That is true.
So she only got her powers from one Infinity Stone.
Ah, that is true. And that was the Mind Stone.
No, Tesseract was the Space Stone.
That's right.
So, yeah, she's powerful, but again, that's probably why Thanos had a little more strength than her, because he, at that point,
Had them all.
he had them all. So, yeah, why she was able to stand up to him, I don't think she could have survived long enough.
I mean, my favorite part though was when she took the punch and was just
And
like,
just ding.
you know, Thanos was like, "What the hell?"
So, knowing now what Dar-Benn has and what her abilities possibly are, do you think this trio of heroes has a good chance to beat her?
I mean, it's a Marvel movie, right? At the end of the day, unless she's coming back for another one, we know how it's gonna end, right? But
Right.
I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be interesting because you know she's gonna be powerful. I feel like this is where the time of like maybe the connection to the heroes might come in because they might fail the first time they fight her,
Right.
Especially with switching places, they're not gonna know how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I was looking at is, you're jumping back and forth. So you think you got control and all of a sudden you use one of your powers.
Yeah, yeah.
And now you're over here and Monica's now where you were.
Which is gonna be an interesting tactic though, because you know that's gonna come into play how they fight
Right.
at the end, right? They're
And
gonna
then
learn.
learning to work together to make it happen.
And make her think like, oh, Captain Marvel's over here, I'm gonna go get her, and then she uses her power, goes behind her. or something.
Right.
You know, I think it's gonna be cool to watch.
I think it is. And I think Kamala is going to have the fun part of it because she's just a kid. So, I mean, you can kind of see when I show you some clips, one of the things in the clips is she's like, we're a team.
I wonder.
And Carol Danvers looks at her like, oh, man.
Yeah, you already know she's gonna be annoyed. I'm also thinking like, is she gonna be like more of the decoy,
Right.
or will she be the opposite? Will
She may be more powerful than they think.
Yeah, like because I'm thinking like, okay, this big villain, she probably knows who Captain Marvel is.
Yeah.
She probably knows even maybe who Photon is.
Right.
You never know. But like Miss Little Kamala, they're not gonna know who she is.
Kamala from Jersey
Yeah,
State.
they're not gonna know.
Who's going to know that?
Yeah, so I'm thinking like, okay, maybe, just maybe, she might be the one that defeats her because like she's not gonna know the power or
Right.
something. You never know. So we'll see how it plays out. But I feel like obviously they're gonna win at the end. But it's gonna be
Well,
cool
yeah.
how they do it.
All right, let's take a look at some clips from the movie, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more.
Carol Danvers, prodigal child of the Milky Way.
Nick Fury, my favorite one-eyed man of intrigue.
How goes it out there?
Cold, no air, space.
Captain Marvel, the Annihilator. You took everything from me, and now I'm returning the favor.
What is happening to me? She's entangled our light-based powers, so we switch places whenever we use them. You can absorb light. I can see it. And Kamala,
Who's Kamala?
hi, she can turn light into physical matter.
I could totally show you.
No!
every planet we call home. I would never choose to bring anybody into this.
You are not the only thing standing between this and the universe.
Oh my god, we're a team.
Higher.
Further. Faster.
So you've seen some of the clips. I think this is going to be a fun movie.
Oh yeah.
I think it's really gonna. I think people are gonna start liking Brie Larson more because it's gonna bring a little more of her comedy side out.
I was gonna say it's gonna make her where it, you know, people dish on her acting, right? But this time they're gonna actually have to kind of give in because it's like
She's gonna win you over.
yeah, she's gonna be funny, you know.
Exactly. So Kevin Feige brought in Nia DaCosta, who's director of Candyman,
That's so cool. I didn't even
and
know
I think that was kind of a unique choice.
that. Oh yeah.
Somebody who's not used to doing the comedy type.
Yeah,
type of
like
thing.
there was no
And-
comedy in Candy.
Oh no, Candyman, you know, a horror type movie, and that's kind of a change. So DaCosta has addressed her approach to the film in an interview with Total Film, and she also commented on superhero fatigue. She thinks that definitely there is superhero fatigue. So she feels that the biggest difference from this movie coming out and the rest of the MCU is a little more wacky and silly.
Oh yeah, yeah. You get that from the trailer
Yeah.
itself, you know.
The worlds you go to in the movie are unlike others you've seen in the MCU. And so this brings up a good point. We kind of were touching on it earlier in the video here. Do you believe that superhero fatigue is actually in the movies?
Oh, for sure. No, I think the reason why it's there is because of the sheer amount that's there. I think that because of like having movies and then having Disney Plus shows and then having to watch all of them to connect to the next film that comes
Right.
out, I think like the general fan, unless you're a super Marvel fan, is probably like, what is going on?
Right.
Because they're not doing it. They're not doing
No.
it. I mean, it's too much. It's one thing to have films, right? The first 10 years we just had films, and they came out one a year, maybe.
Yeah.
So it gave time for the people to catch up if they needed to.
Right.
But with this, it's like, all right, here's a film. In the same year, here's a Disney Plus show. Here's another Disney Plus show at the end of the year.
Right.
And then another film at the end. That's 4 things happening in 1 year. There's no way. So honestly, I think it's really because of that. Instead, I feel like they just need to, like we were talking about earlier in this video, is like they need to focus on one hero, build up that hero, especially people we already know. Spider-Man, plenty of story to tell.
Right.
Even if Tom Holland disappears, recast. Spider-Man needs to be there forever. It's the most famous superhero of all time.
It
bro.
is. It's a fan favorite over all the others.
Yeah.
So that's a character you definitely have to have no matter what.
And it's even more in the modern age because the 2 famous heroes of all time is Spider-Man and Superman. Even Superman is getting to that point where because he's so powerful, people can't relate.
Right.
Where you got Spider-Man, who was just typical Brooklyn
A
girl,
kid in Brooklyn. Yeah.
who literally just couldn't, just randomly got powers, was nerdy, just stuff like that where like you kind of can connect to him. Now the comics, this man has hoes for days, so no, you can't connect to that, but because this man lands every babe ever, but in general, it's like they need to focus on one character arc, someone that we know, like a Doctor Strange, people that we already have, Captain Marvel.
Right.
Build on these characters and slowly introduce people.
Right.
And then the hero fatigue won't be there
I
because
agree.
you'll be doing the stories the right way.
Right. I think that's a good point. When these other characters came out initially, they built up a story. They built up a connection to where you felt the things that they felt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it made you buy into the characters and the actors that portrayed them.
And on top of they took a risk, starting with Iron Man.
Yep.
That's a huge risk. You took a B character, right?
Exactly. And that's kind of what we're going to get into is that first you choose somewhere they had some intelligence that we don't know about. They pick a character that was kind of that character we throw in and say, we're going to try this character out, see how he does. A billionaire philanthropist playboy,
Who connects to that?
Yeah, I mean,
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk,
Who connects to that?
I didn't win the lottery, so it wasn't me.
Yeah, none of standard people. you
Yeah,
know?
so I mean, he's not a relatable character, but what made it work was bringing on Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Iron Man as a character, I don't think would have worked as well if they hadn't casted Robert Downey Jr. He literally made Tony Stark his.
Yeah.
He was believable, and he was literally that guy that you can't imagine somebody else taking Tony Stark.
No, I mean, people always said like it was rumored like Tom Cruise and stuff was. Imagine Tom Cruise.
Tom
Iron
Cruise
Man.
would not have done
No way.
the level that Robert Downey Jr. was able to do.
No.
Just be able to be a little cocky and come across as a fun-loving guy that knows how to say one-liners better than anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, but like going back to hero fatigue, it comes to 2 things. When you have a live action hero story, it comes down to, do you take the risk on a character? And if you do, who are you casting? Because if you cast the wrong person, no one's going to care.
Right.
Like imagine, I hate to say it, but like we got the Miss Marvel stuff.
Right.
But imagine a Miss Marvel movie with a brand new actress. Will it have worked? Who knows? Probably not.
I don't think it would have. I think you're bringing up a good point.
Yeah.
When we talk about the characters and which characters to choose, you definitely have to look at it. I mean, take the first 6 Avengers. They were perfectly cast. They set a standard that makes it difficult for other characters to get to that level.
Yeah, and were they huge actors at the time?
No.
Besides Robert Downey, you know, he had his little stint, but besides them, no one else was huge, right?
No, exactly.
Marvel made them big, but they had some kind of expertise. It's not like, what's her name, Eamon? It's not like her where she's like brand new, right? It's not like she came in and like she doesn't really have. She's good, don't get me wrong, but it's not like she had some kind of expertise coming into it.
Right.
Again, it comes down to like just casting good, and when it comes to hero fatigue, we have the animated stuff.
Right.
If hero fatigue was essentially there, the animated stuff would fail.
Yeah, so...
But Spider-Verse did not fail.
Exactly. Spider-Verse shows that it's not really hero fatigue.
No.
It's
just story
not
fatigue.
the good build-up of the story.
Yeah, the story's lacking. That's all that's happening.
Yeah.
So, like, one of the things I also think when it comes to, like, Marvel and their difficulties they're having with this hero fatigue is that they're trying to find the next big thing. They're trying to find the next Iron Man.
Right.
They're trying to find the next Endgame. Don't.
Right.
I think the problem that they're running into is they're not allowing creativity to flourish. You don't need to find those things. You don't need to find that. Just focus on a story. Focus on building the character up.
Right.
That's all the fans care about. I'm
That's
telling you right now, if you have a good story, you have a way for them to connect to that character, your movie will do great.
Right. And I'm one of the guilty ones that I'm stuck on the original 6.
I think a lot of people are, to be honest.
Because their stories were so good and they developed them throughout the first 23 movies that you connected with them. For Marvel to do that, they literally found lightning in a bottle with that original team.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr., of course, he literally became Tony Stark. Even when he left Marvel, what is he doing? Working with a company that does AI.
Technology stuff.
Yeah, technology stuff. So I think he bought into the character so much that he literally, part of him became that character.
Yeah.
And I think his quick wit, his incredible acting were a great way to kick off that era of superhero movies.
Yeah. And the thing that Marvel needs to realize is that might never happen again. And that's fine. That's fine.
That's fine. You have to figure out a better situation with what you have.
Yeah, you don't need to have another Downey Jr. You don't.
No.
You can have, who knows, we may never get another Endgame. We may never get, although Secret Wars might be. But we don't know, right? It might suck. Who knows? What they need to just focus on is just making sure they cast who they think is great and build up those characters.
Right, I think so. You look at everybody that's done it, and I could go through each one. Chris Evans, Hemsworth. You know, Evans was great. He literally embodied Steve Rogers, and again, even when he wasn't in character, he was in character. I remember the one time at the Oscars, he was helping women walk up the stairs.
Yeah.
What would Steve Rogers do? And this is just the actor doing it. It's not even Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
Hemsworth had a tough job with Thor. The storylines were never the greatest. I think it took till Ragnarok for the character to fully develop to what we know him as.
Yeah, it was always weird that they were trying to force like a romantic thing for him for a while.
Well,
I think that's,
I think
that's the issue.
They even had the little joke when they first introduced him in Avengers. Tony Stark with does mother have thou, no, you have thou curtains or whatever it was.
those drapes.
Yeah, so I mean, it was funny because he played up on that.
Yeah.
So I think he had the tough part. Now, he did build his body up to try to match Thor. I give him credit for that.
And I mean, I can't think of anyone to play Thor now.
No,
like, to
I
be
can't
honest with
either.
you. Again, it comes to that situation that they did it too well almost. It's hard to think of anything else.
And we talked about Mark Ruffalo. He was kind of thrown in as the now third actor to play Hulk. Well, fourth if you include Lou Ferrigno. Now, the funny thing about that is the Hulk's character, and this is something I learned a while back, is actually, before he was a talking Hulk and just made the grunts in that, was a combination of Mark Ruffalo and Lou Ferrigno's voices.
Oh, interesting.
So Lou Ferrigno was still involved with Hulk even, decades later.
Yeah, later. That's crazy.
And I give Ferrigno a lot of credit. He was a big guy, he had a speech impediment that was obvious.
Probably worked in the favor of Hulk,
But
to be honest.
for Hulk, it worked great, so.
Hulk smash!
But he did a great job. Scarlett Johansson, I can't imagine anybody else being Black Widow. Her character, whether it was written that way or the way she portrayed it, proved that she was equal with the superheroes, even though she wasn't.
No, one of the things I liked about with Scarlett Johansson and the whole idea of her character was that they progressed her because she started off as this sex icon,
right?
And then they finally were like, oh no, she's more than just eye candy,
right?
She had a lot more to prove,
right? And I think you're right. In Civil War, she proved her ability to be as equal as the rest of the superheroes, not being a superhero. My favorite scene is when she's on the motorcycle riding behind an Ultron. Steve Rogers drops a shield in the street. She's able to scoop it up, get it back up to him, slide the motorcycle under the truck. She was a tough character.
and it shows it, man, because she's one of those characters that, you know, people probably weren't a fan of originally. She's just there.
Right.
Kind of like Hawkeye, you know,
Right.
just there. But over time, people building up the character arc,
Right.
people started liking her. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And then, of course, as you said, Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner, excellent job at doing Hawkeye. Quentin Barton made his character believable, bringing in his family down the road to show that he was actually just a regular guy.
Yeah, wanted to pretty much get out of it.
Right.
Honestly.
And was ready to be done with it.
Yeah, also, like, he had some of the best quips, like, in MCU history ever. Like, some of the best lines, best jokes I've ever heard. So.
Right, and I agree with you. I remember in Civil War, he's fighting Black Widow, and in the middle of the fight, she's got him pinned to the ground, and he says, "We're still friends, right?"
Yeah, I feel like his writing was just so on point.
It
I
was.
really liked it. So.
And Jeremy Renner has proven himself to be equal with the other actors.
Oh yeah, coming from like comedies, coming from
Right.
that kind of stuff. He had a couple action movies here
He
and
did,
there.
yeah. He did in Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be the next
next Mission
lead
Impossible.
Mission Impossible.
Tom Cruise, man, you just need to retire.
Yeah, I mean, please. But yeah, Jeremy Renner is one of those guys that one of my favorite movies he was in was Tag.
Me too, bro.
I mean,
Tag's such a good movie,
It
man.
was. I mean, the one guy that nobody could tag, and
And he was just so good.
He was.
I love the embodiment he brings to his characters, man. It's
yeah,
so
I
good.
agree. I think that group is always going to be hard to bring another team in to match that.
Yeah, yeah.
So even though you've seen the Phase 4 of Marvel and people were scratching their head going, "What are we doing?"
I feel like they were trying to do, like I said, the idea of, okay, maybe focus on some characters, try to build them up. And I don't think you do it in a series.
Right,
I think
exactly.
you start as a side character in a movie and then give them their own movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think everyone, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think they're also trying to kind of go off of the success of Netflix Daredevil.
Right.
Right? Like, he was one character where that got built up even more because of the TV show.
Right.
But at the end of the day, who knows if those same creators made a movie, how
it
good it would
had
have
as
been.
much
You know what I mean?
success,
Yeah.
correct.
It might have just been the writing. It could
Right.
have been the way they built them up. Anyways, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. But
Right.
that's for another video.
That's true.
We're gonna have an hour-long video.
That's right. So I'm gonna have you role play. You're Kevin Feige.
Okay.
What is your next steps to bring that excitement back into the superhero genre?
Okay, first thing, as I've been saying multiple times, build characters up. First thing, make sure you build characters up. Don't give them full-on series.
Right.
Don't get rid of the stupid Disney Plus series at this point, in my opinion.
Right.
I just feel like if you want the general audience to be as good as they were in the first 10 years, there doesn't need to be shows. Your first 10 years was all movies.
Right.
And they were all theater experiences. They were all these people going to the movie to actually get to see these characters come to life. They're not sitting at home. They're not seeing like, oh my God, 5 series came out? Great. Now I got to watch
Exactly.
all those before I watch, the Marvels or whatever. You know what I mean? I just think
And
it's too much.
I agree with that because I think the excitement of building up to see a movie, you want that so that you get everybody going, okay, it's coming up. We got another month that's coming out.
Yeah.
Not, okay, we got 3 Disney Plus series, and then a month later, you're going to get the Marvels.
Yeah, I've been saying this because I'm a Disney guy, right?
Yeah.
So I've been saying this in general with Disney as a whole, not just Marvel. Star Wars, same thing. Star Wars has always been a cinematic experience.
Right.
That's why it was so famous.
True.
As soon as Disney took a hold of it, they made their sequels. They did all right. They started making shows.
Right.
I get that you have to make stuff for Disney Plus. I get it because you got to bring some new content because otherwise,
Otherwise, it's going to disappear.
you got to lower the price.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not about to do
And
that.
they keep raising it. So I get what they're trying to do, but at the same time, if you're gonna make a show, make it a show.
Right.
Don't make it a limited series. Obi-Wan being 6 episodes and
Right.
not a confirmed second season. You see what I'm saying? Like
Right.
that kind of stuff. Same thing with Loki was doing well. We got a second season. WandaVision did well, but there's not a second season coming
Right,
for that.
exactly.
It's almost like you could have easily made that a movie.
I think what people are having a hard time with is in comics, characters come back.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants Chris Evans to reprise Steve Rogers. And,
This guy.
Downey Jr. to make an appearance, just so you can have
Just a little,
taste. Just a little cameo here and
Don't
there.
need fully back. Just a little, maybe a hologram or
do
something.
a hologram, do an AI version of him, just so that you get that taste of
You
it.
get that nostalgic feel.
Exactly.
you know?
And I think you still need a little bit of that.
A little.
Because the characters that are left from the original 6, Clint Barton's ready to retire.
And probably will. You got Kate Bishop.
Kate
so.
Bishop's going to take over that for him. Mark Ruffalo. He's near the end, and I think the transference of power, like you suggested, is probably coming.
It's just because there's too many Hulk characters.
I think he'll have a big movie, and then that'll probably finish it off, and the other characters will come in. Now, I'm not sure about Red Hulk, because I don't know if Harrison Ford can last another 10 years.
Sorry, Harrison. We love you, bro.
I love you, man, but
I'm surprised you're still acting, my guy.
I'm telling you.
Although we do say that, but then what's his face? Patrick Stewart's still acting, so.
Tell me about it. You know, and I'm an old guy, you know, that y'all know that, and that's kind of my thing. And I give credit to these actors because when you get older, it's a lot harder to do the things that you see them do.
Shoot, I'd be wearing an earpiece on set all day. What's my line again?
And not only what's my line, but most of these guys that are action guys,
Oh, yeah, they can't keep up.
yeah, the Denzel Washingtons that are 70 plus years old doing an action movie. And I'm like, dude, that ain't me.
Yeah, I was gonna say more power to you.
This is my action movie. You looking at it. So I mean, it's great to see the older actors still working hard and being able to do those things. I kind of question the Harrison Ford hire just because you're hiring an older actor than the one you had before. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Harrison Ford. His acting is great. But what's going to happen if people like him and they want to bring him back, and you know, here he is not around no more?
Well, and that brings up the point too of did they cast him for fanfare? I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, did they cast him because there was no one else big enough in that movie?
That could be.
You see what I'm saying? Like, think of the people that are in that movie.
Right.
Anthony Mackie, he's still kind of like a growing actor.
Yep.
The new Falcon.
The new Falcon.
New actor.
And I think it was a mistake not to bring Sebastian Stan as doing a little bit in there. You built up that connection between them.
They have to be.
Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then say, okay, we ain't talking no more.
Maybe they'll explain it. Maybe he'll have a little cameo in the beginning, and they're just kind of hiding it a little bit. Who knows? Because we know how Marvel is about cameos.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
He might be in there. Yeah, that would have been a better story, right?
Right.
So maybe they brought Harrison Ford for that like star factor. That's what I was looking for the star factor of the film.
But again, that takes away from what works for them.
Yeah.
You don't bring in a heavy.
I mean, we've seen how Eternals happened, and I don't think Eternals was a bad movie.
It wasn't.
But it's like it's hard. You know, you got Angelina Jolie playing a side character.
Right, exactly. And, you know, a main character playing a side character.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that hiring of certain people is great. But you still have to be realistic in that you know that this is a ongoing story. If you're going to have Red Hulk as a main character down the road, who's going to play it?
Again, maybe we're wrong. Maybe he's only going to be in this movie and Thunderbolts, and that's it. Maybe he dies. It could be something like that because I don't see Harrison Ford signing a multi-picture deal at his age. I just don't see it. So
I don't either. I mean, you've seen he was
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones. That was it. He was like,
bro,
put the hat on the end, but no, I ain't coming back.
And that's what confused me a little bit. I'm like, maybe it's gonna be a lot of CGI for this character too, obviously, because like
it is.
I'm just thinking like in general, he doesn't want to. You know, he hung up the hat on Indiana Jones because he couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
He was hurting himself on set, bro. You know what I mean? So it's like I could see the same thing happening in these Marvel movies.
And honestly, I think his character, Thunderbolt Ross, is going to be more of a
government type of person.
Government type. He's supposed to be President Ross, and I think it's going to be more of using your head than your physical.
And as we know from the past, he hates the Avengers. So we know,
right.
You know, taking over the mantle as Captain America is going to be a problem for him.
Yeah, and I think, don't get me wrong, I love Anthony Mackie. You know, I watched him in Twisted Metal, and he's a good actor. It's just hard seeing somebody else take the cap role. You know, and for me, it's a challenge.
This guy. He's a Steve Rogers bandwagon.
Well, and honestly, I am. Even Bucky Barnes had his stint.
Honest, yeah.
Unfortunately, his role is moving on to Thunderbolts, and he's going to be more the leader of Thunderbolts.
Which would be cool.
Which I think will be great. And Sebastian Stan, I love him as an actor. He's shown he's got a lot of versatility.
And I think it'd be interesting to see him like try to be, because you know he's going to have issues with John Walker.
Right.
Because you know they're going to both
They're
want
going
to
to be working
captain.
together, yeah. And you're right. I think that's going to be a challenge.
It's going to be cool.
But I think it's going to be cool. So just to kind of tie everything up, so we're not here for another 2 hours, we're going to see if Marvel's has what it takes to kind of bring back that excitement into the superhero genre. I want to really thank you, Hero, for coming here, being a part of this. I really enjoyed it. Your expertise in film and Disney and the superhero stuff is great.
Yeah.
I love playing off you. I think we work well together.
Heck yeah.
It's definitely something that I want to keep doing. We definitely should do this sometime again.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I always like a good hero discussion, to be honest. It's in my name.
Hey, who knows? Maybe we can do a podcast. Maybe we can do something where we can get some involvement with people, and I'm all for that.
Hey, any of you Marvel fans, if you watch this, or Marvel actors, we'll interview.
That's right. Hey, no doubt. Hey, you know, anybody, Harrison. Hey, if you want to come on and talk,
we're all for you.
That's
being
right.
Red Hulk. What do you mean?
You're an old guy like me. I'll take it. You know, I'll take an old guy talking up with us. So hey, I have no problem with that. Make sure you visit the Hero on his channels as well as all his other social media. Make sure y'all get out to the theaters, see the Marvels on November 10th. See you soon, and let's go to the movies.